been obsessed with self-development for 17 years because you can never stop learning about yourself. Like, it's endless, but it's beautiful because we just keep evolving. And I think we have to get comfortable with evolving. And for some people, the change aspect is really hard. The one thing that you can rely on at the moment in our society is that change is constant. We need to break boxes. So by breaking boxes, we need to break the boxes that we've put ourselves in and that other people put us in. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for rescue. Be your own Prince Charming. Like, rescue yourself. We're really strong and we really don't want to give up, but we do have to just go back in and just sort ourselves out first. And then once you've got those tools, you never lose them. You've got them forever.
Hi, Natalie, and welcome to Unstoppable Women, the series where I get to meet amazing and inspiring females like yourself and learn all about your stories, what you discovered, what you found, the lessons you've taken, and how you would like to share that with others listening. This is episode 8, which is a really fantastic number to have gotten to on February the 2nd. And you said earlier your lucky number. So I think this was meant to be this recording for both of us. I'm super excited to hear your story. By way of introduction, you are Natalie Montagnani. You are a business and leadership coach for women. And this is not your first founding organization. You've actually founded 2, which is really amazing. And I'm sure there's lots of pearls of wisdom in there for you to share with us. And so to get us started today, I'd really love to know, in your own words, who is Natalie Montagnani?
Well, thank you for having me on here. It's great to be here. So I am a business and leadership coach for women. It is my second radio, as I said to you. My first business was actually a marketing agency, which I set up at the tender age of 27. I had enough of corporate. I love corporate. I kind of soaked up all the info that I could. And then I was like, you know what? I want to go and do my own thing. And so I did. And it worked until it didn't, which I think is a story that I hear with a lot of women. I loved running it until it got to about its 16th birthday. And I'd been actually mentoring some women as well, and also volunteering for the Sherry Blair Foundation. And I just had this realization that the agency wasn't my passion anymore. It had been for so long and I loved it, but as we will delve in a bit to my story, I'd become a different person. And I think that's something that certainly at the Women in Change conference came out, is that we have these seasons in our lives. We don't stay the same woman. We become a different woman as we go. And sometimes, we don't have that one career for life. We actually do evolve and decide that we have a different. I think my marketing agency had been very much about the kind of in your 20s, and perhaps into your 30s, getting established, getting some money. I was very money orientated, getting that business going and growing. And I succeeded. I managed that. But then it became kind of like, okay, that's not filling my soul or my cup, or like there's something missing. And so it became time for a change. So I did, and I haven't looked back since. So
How fantastic. I think there's a couple of bits here for us to delve into. And I think a recurring theme that I hear time and again from women is all about identity. And quite often the change of identity is something that it starts internally, and it's often ourselves struggling to come to grips with the fact we have changed, or we need to change, or we will change in the future, and how we grapple with. And then secondly, there's a language thing as well. How do we explain that and describe it to other people? How do we describe it to ourselves? So there's really interesting recurring themes. I'm already starting to hear about the unstoppable women that we are talking to on this series. So let's go back in time then. So in your 20s, take us back to that time you were building that agency. You had something of your own. Tell us a bit about what was going on and set the scene for that before time.
So building the agency, the first few years were a real learning experience. And as, anyone starting a new business will know, it's tough, and you kind of got to find your way and work out who your clients are and all the things. But it wasn't far into that business that my life changed quite dramatically. So I was like 2-3 years into my business, I hit 30, and suddenly everything just fell apart. It was like, what? I've spent all this time building things up, going out on my own. And how sometimes where you're pushing really, really hard and yet it still just crumbles away. My long-term relationship throughout all of my 20s came to an end. Heartbroken. My fledgling business, it was the 2008 crash. Oh my Lord. Like, who wants to have a fledgling business with that happening? Suddenly, the world was in turmoil. Clients were cancelling, the work because they wanted to see what was going to happen. And it was just, oh my God, the stress. I got diagnosed with ME. Like, it was just, everything was going wrong that could go wrong. So my health and, finances dried up. So then I started getting into debt every month. And for anyone who's been in that situation where you're on your own and you've got bills to pay and you're trying to start a business or get it established. And I remember all the money I was earning was paying the mortgage, and then everything else, like my food shopping, everything was going on the credit card every month. And it was just going zoom.
Mm.
And then of course the stress of that was, So it was not a good time. But
No. How were you feeling at
always,
that time? Yeah.
yeah, it was, I was so lost. I was just really lost. And I genuinely didn't know what to do. And I just, I knew I kept pushing harder, but that didn't help. That wasn't helping, and I think sometimes as women, especially if we're quite, stubborn, determined. I'm Aries, so that is the way I'm made. I don't like to give up on something, so I will keep just pushing, even if I'm breaking, which is stupid, right? We've got to stop. And it was only really when a good friend of mine, my parents were like, you've just got to stop. Like, you've got to let go. Like, rent out your flat, move home, which at 30 just felt like the world's biggest failure, which obviously it's not. It's really not. But it felt a lot at the time because I wanted so badly to be Little Miss Successful. And, everyone's go, oh, hasn't she done well? She got her own flat, she got her own business. Woo! And it just felt, like the world's biggest failure. But I know I had no choice. Like, I couldn't keep going the way I was, or I literally was just I had this awful moment where I was actually looking into, I love going shopping, right? It's my thing. Don't judge me for it. I love a shop. And my mum, I remember she was saying to me, oh, let's go for a shop. It'll cheer you up, because it's my happy place. And I remember actually looking up the shopping centre and seeing if they had wheelchairs to rent, which broke my heart because I didn't think I could physically walk around that shopping centre. And it was like,
Oh,
oh
wow.
my God, I can't do that to myself. I can't let myself. I just knew that I needed to rest. I'd been living off caffeine and pushing so hard, and I needed to just take all that stress, that heaviness. I needed to get rid of it. And moving home with my folks, oh my God, bless their cotton socks for taking me back, which, my mum was really happy actually. She loves me being at home. It felt enormous to have that weight lifted. Flat rented out, wasn't accumulating all that debt anymore. And not long after I moved in, actually, I'd heard about this course for people with ME. And I found someone locally that ran that course. So I think it was like £500. And I was like, oh my God, it's £500. But my mum was like, Natalie, my God, you've come this far. You've got all that debt anyway. Just do it, because you never know. This could really help you. So I thought, oh my God, okay, I'm just going to do it. So I just put it on another thing on the credit card. I think it was the last thing that went on the credit card, happily. And then, went off on this weekend and it changed my life. It literally saved me, or I saved myself. I know but it gave me some incredible tools that changed me forever. And then eventually, and now has become my life's work, and it will be my life's work for sure.
So I've got a few questions before we come to the course, because that sounds like the real pivoting point. So it feels like around that 2008, a lot came together for you. You obviously had a health diagnosis. When did that feature, and how aware were you that was going on at that time?
Oh God, it it didn't really matter about getting the diagnosis, to be honest. I mean, you could have called it anything. I actually remember hating when they gave me, okay, so the closest thing that the experts nearest box they could put me in was ME. That at the time. This is going back a long way. Oh God, it's going back like 17 years. Oh my goodness. And it just felt like they'd given up on me. There was like, there's nothing we can do to help you. We think it's kind of ME. You've got some of the symptoms, you haven't got some of the others, but that's the box we're going to put you in. Oh, we've got some experimental drugs we can try if you like. And I was like, no, I'm good. And then I tried to then find kind of my own way out of it and trying alternative therapies and just being really good to myself. But I think because of the immense stress I was under, like nothing was going to help until I got out of that position. But yeah, I mean, I remember oh God, I think the worst thing was I didn't tell anyone for like 2 years. I don't like to burden other people with my problems, or I didn't back then. I just felt like it was an admittance of failure. And also, I think I told one friend at the time, and she said something like, "Oh, I've been a bit tired lately as well." And I thought, "Oh God, right, I'm just not going to tell anyone," because I was literally it was such an understatement. To try and explain fatigue to someone that hasn't ever had it or experienced it is really hard. I was literally drawing up on the driveway in my car and pretty much crawling in the front door and then collapsing. And because I had my own clients at the time, I could mask it quite well. So I could literally just rest and then put all my energy into going out, being sparkly Natalie for a meeting, and then literally just crawling back home and then just laying and being done, And yeah, for a couple of years, I was pretty much kind of working from bed with my laptop and just keeping it a secret from everyone, which it was really just looking back, when I think how young I was, and it's just like, oh my God, poor you, that was so much to go through. But, what doesn't kill us make us stronger. And I do think that.
Yeah. Can I then pick up? So this had been going on for a little while, and you then got this diagnosis. They wanted to try this experimental drugs, but you said, actually, I'm going to find a slightly different way. How did you move forward with that? And what did that look like for you?
Yeah, well, I tried everything. Obviously, I changed my diet. Diet's so important.
Yeah.
Gave up alcohol. I gave up wheat and caffeine. That was a brutal one to give up. I had a headache for like 3 days. It was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's hard.
That did help, I have to say. It really did. I tried some other things like reflexology, massage, but actually what I found that they did is they actually made me feel worse because it was putting more pressure on my system to kind of deal with that. It was just really tough to know what the solution was, and I kept trying different things. But ultimately, it was that weekend that I discovered self-development, basically. It was CBT, NLP. It was an introduction. So this bit felt like being given the keys to the kingdom of life, was understanding how the brain works. It was mind-blowing. I remember I can still see myself in this room and she showed this video, and it was how a neural connection's made. Have you ever watched that video, like on YouTube or anything? Oh my God, I
No,
will
I've seen.
share it with you.
I've seen pictures, and similarly to you, I kind of got really curious around how the brain works after I had my daughter, and I had a really bad bout of anxiety that led to like crippling depression, and similarly was offered all sorts of medication and willingly took it until I slowly figured out that wasn't the cure to what was happening. And I got really curious about what going on and started to go down the rabbit hole, and it was like ripping off the worst band-aids, not taking any of the medication while also having a tiny baby in tow, but to figure out all my own ways of coping, and went down the path that was very similar, like understanding why the brain fires off and reacts in certain ways, how thoughts and language can lead on to ingrained habits and things like that. I find the whole topic really, really interesting. Tell me, how did you come across this course in the first place? Was this something recommended to you, or did you stumble across it?
Well, this is one of those interesting situations, whether you believe in God, universe, just something. I'd heard about this course from totally different people, not in related environments. One was a lady at a networking event. Another was my sister who'd seen an advert in her little local village pamphlet. And when you just hear a couple of things from different places and you suddenly think, are you trying to send me a message here? And I just felt like
Signs.
it was definitely the universe going, Natalie, we have something for you that's really going to help you. So we're just going to keep shoving it in different people's brains to tell you. And we hope you're going to pay attention at some point. And I was like, yeah. Okay. And I think I'd seen it on TV as well. I think there was a famous celebrity whose daughter or someone had gone on the treatment, gone through the process and, come out from having ME being a different person. Yeah. So I just put the clues together and I just thought, right, I've got to go and find out what this is all about. And yeah, it was the best thing I ever did. Yeah. I mean, I do think there's just magic in this world. And the weekend of that course, it was really spooky, Julie. I can't even begin to tell you. It snowed in Brighton, which if you live in Brighton or the southeast, that's really rare. because it's salty air. It's quite warm. You know, it doesn't really get that cold. And the night before, without warning, there'd been this huge like snow download storm. And I woke up and the lady running the course rang me and said, "Oh, Natalie, because of the snow, no one else can make it. Can you still get here?" And I was like, "Oh my God, yes, I will get there." But my parents live on this really steep hill in Brighton, which is all very hilly. And I was like, I literally couldn't get a car off the hill without crashing. So I rang a taxi company and they said, "Look, if you can get to the nearest main road, we'll pick you up." So I was like, right, pack bag, we'll travel.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just distinctly remember walking up this road to meet this taxi driver and getting there. And it was just so magical because certainly I think when I feel vulnerable, I don't really like talking. It's not my thing. I love talking, as you can probably tell. But when I feel upset, I'm definitely one of the, I kind of go in. So the fact there wasn't going to have to be other people for me to talk to was actually like a massive bonus.
So you went on your own and there was no one
On
actually
my
else
own.
turned up?
No one there, just me and the tutor. And then I stayed at a friend's house as well, who was just around the corner. So I didn't have to try and hoof it back to my parents and back in the morning. And she'd given, oh my God, this is so bizarre. She said during the day, so she showed me how these neural connections work, which is like how we learn the piano and how we learn new things. And I was like, I had no idea there's these like two little things that literally connect. It's mind-blowing. It's just wow. And so she told me all of this kind of how our brains work. And then she gave me this task of becoming a monitoring my own thoughts. And I'd never actually become an observer of my own thoughts before. I think sometimes we're so just in the thoughts, you know, and we're getting this, and this, and it's kind of just like that constant chatter. And so I became the observer of my thoughts. And she said, just notice how many of your thoughts are positive or negative. And I literally got to the end of her road and it was just, I stopped dead in my tracks. And I was like, I've thought nothing but incredibly negative thoughts since her house to the end of this road, like 100 yards. And it was like, oh my God, is that really what's been going on in my head? And if that's what's going on in my head, well, no wonder kind of the outer world is the way it is. If that's what I'm living with on a day-to-day basis. But before I left, she said, oh, you know, at some point you must also just try and get a copy of the video called The Secret, which I'd never heard of. And I thought, okay, yeah, you know, I'll get that. But then I got to my friend's house and he came in the lounge and he's like, I've got a video for us to watch tonight. It's called The Secret. And I was just like, I mean, this is not like a general release video. I mean, if you've seen it, you've seen it. I mean, obviously now I think, you know, Rhonda Byrne's The Secret is infamous, but certainly 17 years ago, it was still really unheard of. Like it was still making its way round and oh my God, that night I sat and watched The Secret and like it or love it, like it or loathe it. Like for me, again, it was just the kind of from what I'd been taught in the day and the point of my life that I was in, it was just the perfect timing to receive such a gift. And it really did feel like a gift watching that. And I just sobbed the whole video, like, because the music and then everything I find quite emotive. And again, it was just like having the keys to the kingdom and just like, wow, I've been living my life in such a way that's out of alignment because I'm a really happy person. Like I am like little Miss Positive and that's how I like to be. But it was like I was trying to be this positive person, but with the wrong fuel, like with diesel or something. Like, and it's no wonder things were so hard. But once I was able to fuel myself with the right fuel and sort of understand my mindset and put it in the right direction, like everything in my life changed. It was ridiculous within 3 months of implementing all the things I'd learned and looking at life differently and really embodying kind of self-development. I mean, I've been obsessed with it, as you can see from probably all the books behind me. I've been obsessed with self-development for 17 years because you can never stop learning about yourself. Like it's endless, but it's beautiful because we just keep evolving. And it was it was like the worst time of my life, but it became by far like the most magical, best time of my life. And then once you've got those tools, you never lose them. You've got them forever.
No.
And
So
that's
I love
beautiful.
I love this story. And I think I had a similar revelation at the time I had my daughter with the same kind of area of development. And I, similarly to you, was passed The Secret by somebody. So I've got a big thing where I love the interaction, the intersection of things that I call a little bit woo-woo, a little bit spiritual, but where I can apply science to it. And the bit in the middle is okay, there's enough that's a bit, I don't get it, but I can understand the science. And the thing I always applied in this kind of area is we know in science that energy doesn't dissipate. Energy just transfers. So it makes sense that the energy that we put out goes somewhere. Like that is energy. And our thought process, the synapses takes energy. There is chemistry going on behind that for synapses to fire off in the brain, right?
Yeah.
So if that is using energy and that is creating energetic force fields around us, which there's, lots of science around that, how you can walk into a room, feel an energy, right? When people, if there's been an argument, if there's tension, two people don't even have to say anything. You can walk in and you can feel it, right? There is this sort of, I believe, this force field around people, and the energy that you give off, the platform from which you're operating and radiating can influence both your health, because you're the one absorbing it, that influences others around us as well. And it's why I'm a big believer now in karma, because the energy that we put out might not come back in the same way, but it has ripple effects around others all around us. So I love that idea of channeling yourself. And the more I listen to neurolinguistics and how the brain works, there's a big thing about, I was listening the other day to one podcast and it talks about how if we're not programming our brains to like have a certain setting every day, our brains will get programmed by default. They will either get programmed by our default setting, which if we're feeling stressed and run down and negative, will be a repeat of that, or they'll be programmed by other people, even worse, around us, saying they're stressed or they want more or we're not good enough or they need stuff from us. So we need to take it on ourselves to program our own brains and to program our own language and how we're setting off on our day. So I'm a huge fan of this. So it sounds like this course for you came at a really important time of your life. You just moved back in with your parents. You'd had these health difficulties happening and you sort of had an answer in the term of a label or a category they were putting you into. You'd suddenly gone on this course. What did that then give you?
Well, I mean, everything. It gave me everything. Yeah, I mean, just with the way that our brains work is that we have this weird natural tendency to think negative thoughts, and it's designed to keep us safe. But actually, it just keeps us small and it makes us miserable. So yeah, taking control of those thoughts. So once I was able to take control of those thoughts, it just changed everything. And it just meant I could show up for my life in such a different way. And I could show up for my clients in a different way. And the conversations I was having with people were very different, and I was much more willing to put myself forward for things, or just showing up. And the response from everyone else was just huge, and it really did just change everything for the better. It was amazing. And of course now I preach about it constantly.
Yeah. And why not? If when we learn something, it's a gift, right? To be able to share that learning with other people. So let's talk a little bit about the blueprint that you've learned, that you've found, that you move forward with. You talked about in a matter of months, you were able to take such tangible things from that. What is that blueprint that you would want to share with others? What are some takeaways? Because I think you came from a point with ME and also you had that debt and the business and it just wasn't working for you. And this was a real pivotal point for you. But what we're fundamentally talking about here is rewiring the brain, rewiring thought habits, processes, language that we use about ourselves. And recognizing the huge damage that it can have on us and others around us. So that is directly transferable and relatable to people in so many different walks of life. What would be the blueprint you would talk to others about? What would be your advice?
Well, I think the difference with what I went through, the experience I went through, was very much I had to stop waiting. I think I grew up on Disney, like a lot of Disney, because that's kind of all there was back then. Like there wasn't a lot of other things, not like now with, Netflix and Amazon and everything. And so I grew up on Disney. So I always thought if I'm a good person, then these good things will come to me. Yeah. I've been waiting a long time for those good things to come to me, I really felt in my 20s that I was laying all those foundations and like, look at me, I'm doing a good thing. Look, I'm doing a good thing, right? Can I have the reward now? And it didn't come. And I think certainly a part of the blueprint would be to don't wait for permission. Don't wait for rescue, right? Be your own Prince Charming, like rescue yourself. So if things feel heavy, if they're not working, then don't just keep suffering. What can you do to change it? And sometimes it is, you've got to try a few different things. You've got to try a few different methods before you find the thing that helps you. And I think, my God, as women, we are so complicated. Like, we are so complicated. I love us. I think we're amazing. But holy moly, like, oh my God, especially like with perimenopause and all the symptoms you get from that. And, and we're all trying to work out like how to just like keep going and keep happy. But just if it's not working, then rescue yourself, like try and just do that. And I think I always say like start with self. So before I look at someone's business strategy, I'll talk to the woman, what's going on in your world? And, or if they say something like, oh, I've got imposter syndrome, it's like, well, you haven't got imposter syndrome. What's really going on? That's like, you don't have it like you've got a cold. So there's actually something else going on here. What is that? Once we've dealt with that, then we can look at the business. And just like me, once I'd sorted me out, then the business just took off. But I do find that sometimes we're both the problem and the solution in our own lives. And you just have to go within you and just, honey, in a really gentle way, what is going on with you right now? How are you feeling? And also just understanding what part of life you're in, like you were saying about when you had your baby. And certainly, women I work with, they may be struggling with perimenopause, going through divorce, just recovering from cancer. Like there's so much that we deal with in our lives, and we've just got to do it in a really gentle way and not in a let's hustle way, which is what I tried to do to myself in my 20s. Like I was literally like killing myself. And so many women talk about burnout because, like I say, we're really strong and we really don't want to give up, but we do have to just go back in and just sort ourselves out first. Another thing which I think is huge is we need to break boxes. So by breaking boxes, we need to break the boxes that we've put ourselves in and that other people put us in. So I'm sure you've felt this. I mean, certainly when I gave up my marketing agency, my husband was like, are you mad? That's a really successful business. Why would you do that? But that was a box that I knew I had to break. I didn't want to be in that box anymore. Other people put us in boxes. Oh, but you're like this. Why are you becoming like that? No, I like you in this box. Can you get back in that fucking box for me, please? And it's like, no, I don't like the box. I've outgrown the box, And I always kind of think about like, what was your favorite movie as a kid? Well, I'm guessing it's probably not the same movie now. It might have been Bambi, but it's going to be something different now. And it's understanding that, sometimes you've got to break these boxes and you do kind of have that reinvention opportunity. And this can come with our careers. It can come with our marriages and our relationships. It can come even with our families and friends. And I'm sure that, anyone watching this can relate to the fact that sometimes we outgrow people, or we outgrow clients. Sometimes, the people that we're spending a lot of time with, we realize actually you're not good for me and you're actually maybe even a bit toxic or just making my life feel heavy. And sometimes we have to change. So I do talk about breaking boxes, and I think we have to get comfortable with evolving. And for some people, the change aspect is really hard. And I totally get that. But the one thing that you can rely on at the moment in our society is that change is constant. I mean, they say that the next 10 years, our society is going to change more than it ever has. And that's terrifying, but you could also look at it as exciting. And I think we have to just embrace it and not just try and be like, this is me. This is what I want. We've kind of just got to open that up a bit. So I'd say that's definitely part of the blueprint. And choosing ourselves more. I mean, as mums, hello. we probably put ourselves last a little bit too often. And we put other people first. I mean, I'm looking after my aunt who's got dementia. That's been a huge journey. We've had to put her in a care home. That's been an emotional toll that I did not anticipate. And it's like almost like a grieving. But there's always going to be something. We're always going to have these different things. And we have to just choose to prioritize ourselves at the same time and just recognize when we're doing too much or we're not looking after ourselves. And it can be something really small, like going and getting your nails done. Just makes you feel like $1 million. Those small little things where we choose ourselves. And that's okay. That's okay. Just put mum guilt aside for 2 minutes.
Do you know what I hear a lot in what you're saying? It's about those boundaries, isn't it? It's about figuring out our own boundaries and what we need to thrive. And I've learned mine through some real hardships, but I've become really comfortable with, I grapple sometimes with, am I a bit selfish? But because I want my time and my space, and it looks like this.
Yes.
And I then grapple with, am I being selfish? And then I think that this is good for me. And when it's good for me, I feel better. And then I'm a better mum and I'm a better partner and I'm a better friend because I know these are ultimately healthy things. Like my big example at the minute, I'm training for the marathon. So it does take 2-hour runs every so often, and I'm tired afterwards and I don't want to be up like necessarily doing the same things as some of my friends are. And it's a hard one and I grapple with it. But then I think that's good for me. And when it's good for me, I'm a better person and I'm a better mom and I'm a better everything else. But that question of guilt still comes in at the start.
And
It's a really hard one, isn't it?
it's so weird though, because there's no such thing as dad guilt.
Like, I've never heard that. What is
I
dad guilt?
know. Why? Why do we do this to ourselves, you know?
I know.
Like, it's
It's
nuts.
It is. It's a beating. It's a beating up. It's a beating up. So look, Natalie, this series is all about unstoppable women. And I love the journey that you've been on. What you have learned and the skills and the lessons that you've taken are things that are so translatable to other people. In your own words, how do you see an unstoppable woman? What are they to you?
Oh, well, for me, it is someone that is selfish and puts themselves first and doesn't let anyone else put her in a box. Like, that is an unstoppable woman. And we all need to be more unstoppable. You know, I think we've got to let go of all the social conditioning and crap that we've been taught growing up about being the good girl and knowing your place and staying quiet. And no,
Yeah.
just say no.
Yes. I love that. And you know what? I think a few people have said this in this series about the hustle culture. And I wonder if it was symptomatic of our time, you know, in the 90s and the noughties. We just got kind of sexual freedom and also gender fights for gender equality. I won't say gender equality, but it was all within our grasp. I say this to my daughter all the time now that, you know, as a single parent at times, I had a home and a career and I was a mum and no one judged me for it. It's okay for us to do that now. But I think there was a period of time when it was more hustle. We had to push, to fight, to demonstrate that we deserved it. And I think from what I'm sensing now, that many of the women I'm talking to really talk about, we don't need to hustle anymore. We don't need to burn ourselves out to prove we are good enough. We need to be more gentle with ourselves. And there's something that comes with being kinder, being softer, that feminine energy that we bring to it, to each other, and exploring and being a bit more playful about what we're doing, being a bit more authentic and at times, yes, a bit more vulnerable around others. It really feels like that. I wonder if that has been a shift in the times for women, definitely in our life.
I think it's definitely a shift for women, but actually I think it's a shift for culture generally. Certainly the corporates that I work with, and when I go in and meet with the teams, it's so different to when I was in corporate. Like, it's a very different place, and my God, it should be. I think that kind of, you know, top down authoritarian, work harder kind of, you know, I think eventually everyone just burn out. And certainly now, you know, a company can't survive being like that because people will just leave. There's so many more options available to us now. And certainly for women, you know, the amount of female founders that I meet, it's extraordinary. And they were all leaving around the time of having children, around the time of having menopause, because they're like, well, if my workplace isn't going to support me, then I'm leaving. And companies do see the value in us, the huge value that women bring, that different feminine perspective. It's valuable. It literally, I mean, there's so much evidence out there from like McKinsey and everyone saying businesses with, you know, female leadership are more profitable. Ta-da!
Yeah.
And, you know, I love it because Simon Sinek, he is so amazing. And he's like the best CEOs are women. I'm like, yes, Simon, yes, because we lead from the heart and that authentic leadership. And I think it came up at the Women in Change conference as well, was that, that authenticity, that value driven, people respond to that. That's a place they want to work and they want to stay in. So I think it is changing. I think we've still got a way to go, but isn't that beautiful? I think it is changing. And I'll keep banging my drum.
Keep banging the drum, breaking the box, banging the drum. Oh, that's a tongue twister, isn't it?
It is.
I love it. I love it. So look, at the end of each of these episodes, we have a question that's left from the guest before. And yours is from Linda Johnstone. And she asked, so I think this is very fitting actually for the story that you have talked about. What part of yourself did you stop fighting in order to rise?
Yeah, so I definitely had to stop fighting against that strong woman that was living in me, who desperately wanted to get out, but was being kept down and boxed in by the good girl.
Yeah.
So I think once I let go of the good girl and stopped waiting to be chosen, that's when everything shifted. And I chose myself. And my God, unstoppable.
Yeah. Unstoppable, the definition of
I love that
unstoppable.
song as well. I think we should play it on every
I think so.
episode.
It's the new theme tune. It has to be.
Oh,
I need to get a
definitely.
personal performance from Sia. Yeah, I need to. And so, Natalie, what would your question be for the next person?
Yes, I have prepared a little something. So, the question for the next person is, what box did you have to break out of in order to become unstoppable?
Love it. There we go. I love it.
Oh my God, this has been brilliant. Thank you so much for
Well,
this. Brilliant
thank you so
opportunity.
much. I love listening to these stories, that I learn so much, and I think by sharing them with others, others will gain so much as well, and they'll realize these aren't topics that are unique to us. As much as we love to be the protagonist in our stories and think that we're the only ones these might have happened to, the more I hear things like this, the more I spot the threads of similarities and can see how relatable these are to so many people in different ways. Yes, unique ways, but also it's relatable, and that gives us strength. The more we share, the more we come together to hold each other up, the better we will all be.
Yeah, I think we isolate ourselves on this. We always think, oh, it's just me that feels like this. And every event that I organize, the women come together and have discussions and go, it's not just me. And I'm like,
It's not
no,
just me.
darling, it's
No,
not just you. It's all of us.
no.
And that's why
Yeah,
it's
it
so
is.
special when women come together and we share our stories, because it
Yeah,
just gives us that, oh my God, I'm not alone,
yeah.
you know?
We're not alone. And by sharing and coming together, it makes us all unstoppable.
It does. Yes.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I really appreciate
Thank you,
it.
darling.